In every corner of light, there lurks a shadow. Where justice fades and truth bleeds, we uncover what others fear to face. Cold cases, brutal crimes, twisted minds. This is Crime Shadows. It was just after 2:30 a.m., and Melbourne's reservoir suburb was quiet. A 16-year-old boy, alone, disoriented, vulnerable, was trying to make it home. What happened next would shake the nation. In under 2 minutes, Declan Cutler was stabbed, stomped, and left to die. The killers were children, his own age and younger. One of them, only 13, would later walk free, cleared not because he was innocent, but because the law believed he couldn't understand what he had done. But that boy would return, this time accused of an even bloodier crime. This is a story about brutality, broken systems, and the blood-stained line between childhood and culpability. The Declan Cutler case. Retribution and the law's limits. In the days that followed, justice moved swiftly, yet unevenly. 4 of the assailants, teenagers themselves, were found guilty of murder. Sentences ranged from 15 to nearly 20 years behind bars. Some will not be eligible for parole until the early 2030s. But one boy, only 13 at the time, escaped culpability. The Victorian legal system deferred to doli in capax, the ancient principle presuming children under 14 lack moral awareness of their wrongdoing. CCTV confirmed his actions, stomping on Declan's head twice. Yet, Justice Rita Incerti ruled that prosecutors had not conclusively proved the boy knew what he was doing was morally wrong, and thus he was cleared, not guilty of murder or manslaughter. The legal rationale rung like a betrayal. To many grieving souls, it was incomprehensible. How can stomping a victim's head be excused by age? A system questioned and a mother's grief. For Declan's mother, Samantha, grief never faded. It mutates, festers, and returns with renewed vengeance. In August 2025, she stood before reporters, stunned anew. The boy once set free is now accused of a vicious, aggravated home invasion. A 60-year-old man in Gladstone Park was stabbed multiple times, shot in the arm, and hammered viciously. The violence played out like a nightmare. Among 5 charged, including this very same individual now aged 16, is the boy once exonerated. Samantha looked broken. Heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, she said, the words falling heavy like stones. She held the footage in her mind, footage that refused to let her go. The system, so quick to protect a child under 14, failed time and again. She wondered bitterly what the future would hold for others. This twist rekindled debate. Should juvenile offenders be judged more harshly? Does the system protect society or endanger it? Youth violence on the rise. This case fits into a wider, grim narrative unfolding across Melbourne, and indeed many parts of the world. Youth knife crime has surged in Victoria over recent years. Emergency wards report soaring numbers of under-20s treated for stab wounds. Experts link it to systemic disadvantage, family breakdown, disengagement from school, and lack of community connection. Other tragedies punctuate the same landscape. In 2020, 15-year-old Solomone Taufeolungaki was stabbed to death in the brutal flailing of a gang attack. 11 suspects, 9 minors. And in more recent news, a 12-year-old girl stabbed a woman to death, later cleared of criminal responsibility under similar developmental principles. Her case exposed deep failures in state child protection systems, runaways, sexual exploitation, trauma, resulting in tragic outcomes. These are not isolated events. They form a grave tableau of youth violence, legal dilemmas, and the limits of institutional support. Reflections and global resonance. This case, and cases like it, echo globally. In the United Kingdom, similar debates rage over the criminal responsibility of minors, especially around knife crime rates rising in urban areas. In the U.S., juvenile justice reform questions how to balance rehabilitation with accountability. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child demands special treatment for children, but also insists on rights for victims. Here, in Victoria, the collision of psychological development, legal tradition, and public safety crystallizes in tragic form. Doli and Capax is a venerable principle, but when misapplied, it can feel like injustice. The system must evolve, maybe rethink the age threshold, or require more rigorous psychological evaluations in extreme violence cases. It must also tackle root causes: family violence, poverty, trauma, disengagement. As Samantha said, her children depend on her silence now, to heal, to remember Declan as the big goofy boy he was. She fights for him in the only way she can, by calling out an imperfect system. Personal reflection. This case grinds at the core of justice. On one hand, juvenile brains are still developing, neurologically and morally. The legal system recognizes that. On the other hand, the brutality of a frenzied attack, captured clearly on video, strains credulity when innocence is presumed. Samantha's heartbreak resonates beyond her family. It's a call for conversations about how society balances compassion for youth with protection for communities. It's about whether the law can find nuance without letting devastating violence slip through the cracks. From Melbourne to cities across the globe, teens commit violence. Some are victims turned perpetrators, trapped by circumstance. Our systems must see them, but not blind us to the harm they inflict. This story is a warning bell that justice, transparency, and prevention must walk hand in hand.